Episode 14. The most important decision of my life. Hello everyone, and welcome back to our A to English podcast. I hope you are having a wonderful day. Thank you for joining me once again. Today's episode is very special because it tells the story of a decision that completely changed one person's life. The title of today's episode is The Most Important Decision of My Life. Every day, we make many decisions. Some decisions are small. We choose what to eat. We choose what to wear. We decide when to wake up. These decisions are simple. However, some decisions are much bigger. Sometimes, one decision changes our future. Sometimes, one decision changes the way we think. Sometimes, one decision changes our entire life. This story began 3 years ago. At that time, my life was comfortable, but it was not exciting. Every morning, I woke up at the same time. I ate the same breakfast. I went to the same job. I came home at the same hour. Then I watched videos on my phone until it was time to sleep. The next day was exactly the same. Week after week, nothing changed. One evening, after arriving home, I sat quietly in my room. I looked around. There were books on my shelf, but I had not opened them for months. There was a notebook on my desk, but every page was empty. I looked into the mirror and asked myself a difficult question. If I continue living like this, where will I be 5 years from now? The question stayed in my mind for several minutes. I did not like the answer. The truth was simple. If I changed nothing, nothing would change. The next morning, I met my friend Daniel during lunch. He immediately noticed that I looked thoughtful. He asked, "What are you thinking about?" I smiled and answered, "I feel like my life is standing still." Daniel listened carefully. Then he asked, "What kind of life do you want?" His question surprised me. Nobody had ever asked me that before. I thought for a moment. Finally, I replied, "I want to become someone who keeps learning. I want to speak English confidently. I want to read more books. I want to become healthier. I want to build a better future." Daniel smiled. Then he said something very simple. "If you know what you want, start today." Those 3 words stayed in my mind. Start today. That evening, I returned home. Instead of turning on the television, I opened my notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "A better future begins with better daily habits." Then I made a small plan. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Read 10 pages every day. Study English for 30 minutes. Exercise for 20 minutes. Sleep before 11 o'clock. The plan looked simple. In fact, it looked too simple. I wondered if such small habits could really change my life. The following morning, my alarm rang at 6 o'clock. For a moment, I wanted to stay in bed. It was warm and comfortable. But then I remembered my promise. I got up. I drank a glass of water. I opened a book and started reading. The first 10 pages were not easy. Then he said something very simple. "If you know what you want, start today." Those 3 words stayed in my mind. Start today. That evening, I returned home. Instead of turning on the television, I opened my notebook. On the first page, I wrote, "A better future begins with better daily habits." Then I made a small plan. Wake up 30 minutes earlier. Read 10 pages every day. Study English for 30 minutes. Exercise for 20 minutes. Sleep before 11 o'clock. The plan looked simple. In fact, it looked too simple. I wondered if such small habits could really change my life. The following morning, my alarm rang at 6 o'clock. For a moment, I wanted to stay in bed. It was warm and comfortable. But then I remembered my promise. I got up. I drank a glass of water. I opened a book and started reading. The first 10 pages were not easy. My mind wanted to check my phone, but I continued reading. When I finished, I felt proud. It was only 10 pages, but they were 10 pages I had never read before. That evening, I studied English for 30 minutes. I reviewed basic grammar. I learned 10 new words. Then I practiced reading them aloud. My pronunciation was not perfect. Sometimes I made mistakes. Sometimes I laughed at myself. But I continued. The next day, I repeated the same routine. Then the next day. Then another day. After 1 week, something interesting happened. The routine became easier. I no longer argued with myself every morning. Reading became a habit. Studying English became part of my day. After 1 month, I noticed another change. I spent less time on social media. Instead, I spent more time reading books and listening to English podcasts. I also started writing a short diary every evening. I wrote about my day. I described my feelings. I practiced using new vocabulary. At first, my writing contained many mistakes. Some sentences were incorrect. Some words were spelled incorrectly. Instead of feeling disappointed, I corrected my mistakes. Every correction taught me something new. One Saturday afternoon, I visited a bookstore. I wanted to buy another English book. While I was looking at the shelves, an elderly man walked toward me. He noticed the English book in my hands. He smiled and asked, "Are you learning English?" "Yes," I answered. "I study every day." He nodded with approval. Then he asked, "Why do you want to learn English?" I thought carefully before answering. Finally, I said, "Because I want more opportunities. I want to communicate with people from different countries. I want to continue improving myself." The man smiled warmly. Then he said something I have never forgotten. "The best investment you will ever make is investing in yourself." I thanked him for his advice. I bought my book and walked home. That evening, I wrote his sentence inside my notebook. I read it every morning before starting my day. Little by little, my confidence grew. Reading became easier. Listening became easier. Speaking became less frightening. I still had a long journey ahead of me. But for the first time in many years, I felt that I was moving forward instead of standing still. I did not know it yet, but very soon, life was going to test everything I had learned. The following weeks passed very quickly. Every morning, I followed the same routine. I woke up early. I exercised for 20 minutes. I read 10 pages from a book. Then I reviewed my English vocabulary before going to work. Sometimes I felt tired. Sometimes I wanted to skip my routine. There were mornings when I wanted to sleep for another hour. But I remembered my goal. I reminded myself that success is built on discipline, not on motivation. Motivation comes and goes. Discipline stays. One afternoon, my manager called me into his office. I wondered if I had made a mistake. When I entered the room, he smiled. "Please, have a seat," he said. I sat down and waited. He looked at me for a moment before speaking. "I've noticed something about you during the last few months." I felt nervous. "What do you mean?" I asked. "You seem more confident. You finish your work on time. You help your coworkers. And I heard that you've been studying English every day." I smiled. "Yes, I have." He nodded. "Next month, an important visitor from another country will visit our company. He only speaks English. I want you to help us communicate with him." For a few seconds, I couldn't answer. I was happy, but I was also afraid. What if my English wasn't good enough? What if I made mistakes? My manager noticed my silence. He smiled and said, "You don't have to be perfect. You only need to do your best." Those words gave me confidence. That evening, I prepared more seriously than ever before. I practiced speaking in front of the mirror. I learned useful business expressions. I listened to English conversations every day. I even recorded my own voice and listened to it carefully. At first, I didn't like hearing my pronunciation, but little by little, I improved. Every day, I became a little more confident. Finally, the important day arrived. The visitor entered the office with a friendly smile. My manager introduced us. "This is Ahmed. He will help you today." The visitor shook my hand. "Nice to meet you." I smiled. "Welcome to our company." It's a pleasure to meet you. At the beginning, I spoke slowly. I carefully chose every word. Sometimes I paused before answering. The visitor noticed that I was nervous. He smiled kindly. "Don't worry," he said. "Your English is very good." Hearing those words changed everything. I relaxed. The conversation became easier. We talked about our jobs. We talked about our countries. We discussed food, education, technology, and travel. Sometimes I made small grammar mistakes. Sometimes I forgot a word. Instead of stopping, I continued speaking. Communication became more important than perfection. The meeting lasted almost 2 hours. When it ended, the visitor smiled. "You've worked very hard. Please continue learning. I believe your English will become excellent." His words made me very happy. After he left, my manager congratulated me. "You did an excellent job." I thanked him. Then I walked home with a big smile on my face. While I was walking, I realized something important. That opportunity had not appeared because I was lucky. It had appeared because I had prepared myself. Every page I had read ... Every English lesson I had studied. Every new word I had learned. Every morning I had chosen discipline instead of comfort. All of those small actions had prepared me for that single moment. A few days later, I opened my notebook again. I turned to the first page. I looked at the sentence I had written months earlier. "A better future begins with better daily habits." Now I understood those words completely. Small habits had changed my confidence. They had changed my knowledge. They had changed my daily life. Most importantly, they had changed the way I thought about myself. I was no longer waiting for success. I was building it, one small step at a time. Today, I still follow many of those habits. I still read every day. I still study English. I still write in my journal. Some days are easy. Some days are difficult. But I never stop completely because I know that consistency is stronger than perfection. Life will always have challenges. There will always be problems. There will always be days when you feel tired. However, every new day is also another opportunity to improve yourself. Before ending today's episode, I would like you to think about these questions. What decision could improve your life today? What habit would you like to build? How many minutes can you study English every day? What dream are you working toward right now? Take a few minutes to answer these questions in English. Don't worry about making mistakes. Every mistake helps you learn. Every sentence helps you become more confident. Every day of practice brings you one step closer to your goal. Thank you very much for listening to today's episode. I hope this story reminds you that big success does not happen in one day. It begins with one decision, then one habit, then one day of practice, and then another. Never underestimate the power of small daily actions. Your future is created by what you do today. Keep reading, keep listening, keep speaking, keep learning, keep believing in yourself. And remember, the most important decision you will ever make is the decision to keep moving forward, even when progress feels slow. Thank you for listening. I hope to see you in the next episode. Goodbye.